in this Rekordbox tutorial, the Rekordbox export mode. In this video I'll take you through all the features of the software. A while ago I did a complete tutorial on the export mode of Rekordbox 5, but this video is the updated version of that video. This extensive video has multiple ads and call to actions in it. This is the only way that I can produce these kinds of extensive tutorials completely free of charge. If you don't like the ads and the call to actions, you can purchase my ad-free and call to action free complete Rekordbox course. The course is an explanation of all the free features of the Rekordbox export and performance mode. What is Rekordbox and what is the difference between the Rekordbox export mode and the Rekordbox performance mode? Rekordbox started out as track management software for Pioneer DJ equipment. You could create playlists, analyze tracks, analyze keys of tracks, you could adjust the beat grid, and you could export songs to your USB drive. This is what is now known as the Rekordbox export mode. And later they added the performance mode, and with the performance mode you can perform a DJ gig with or without a DJ controller. You can mix 2 or 4 tracks in each other by applying the mid, low and high frequencies and adjust the tempo and key of a track. And even later they added the lighting mode, and with the lighting mode you can connect lights and control them. The export mode is free, the performance mode is partially free, and for the lighting mode you need a subscription plan. Oh, by the way, if you're new to DJing, you should check out my free DJ ebook, The Truth About DJing. This guide helps you get started with DJing and music production. It also gives you some insights into the music business. The link is in the description below. Before we can use Rekordbox, we need to download and install it first. So go to rekordbox.com and click on download. Click I agree and click on download. And allow. Go to the download directory and click on install Rekordbox 6.pkg. After the verification process is completed, it will start the installer. Click continue, continue and agree. And again continue. Make sure your hard disk or SSD is selected and click continue again, then click install. The installation process will start. If it asks for your computer password and username, input your computer's username and password. Then the installation will continue. And then click close. If it asks if you want to move the installation file to the bin, yes, move to bin. Now Rekordbox is installed. You can find it in the application launcher. Again, input your username and password and click OK. Now Rekordbox will start and it will ask you for a username and password again, but this time it asks for your Pioneer username and password. If you typed in your username and password, click on Login. Now click on OK. Now Pioneer asks if you want to participate in a quick survey. Click Skip. Now Rekordbox has to make some stuff private that apparently was public before. You can click Do it later and never do it again. Now click Next. It asks if it needs to convert your Rekordbox 5 library to the new Rekordbox 6 standard. If you're new to Rekordbox, click on Start Rekordbox with Empty Library. Otherwise, you need to convert and click Start. Now Rekordbox will start after we clicked Close. Now we have started Rekordbox. Let's first explain what the different screen elements are. First of all, on top we have the player. Then here on the left we have our playlists, and on the right bottom we have our tracks. As I said before, Rekordbox and Rekordbox DJ are in the same software. You can switch by clicking here to the export mode, the performance mode and the lightning mode. The lightning mode is new in Rekordbox 5. The performance mode is Rekordbox DJ. And as you'll see, that is somewhat of a different layout than Rekordbox, the management software. The management software Rekordbox is the export mode. What we can do, there are a couple of different ways you can import songs in Rekordbox. First, you can say File, Import, and import one track or a folder or import a playlist. What I'm gonna do now is import a folder. It's really easy to have one dedicated folder for all your DJ music. The problem is if you want to move your Rekordbox library later on or move to a new computer, you buy a new computer for example, it's easier to move that library over if all the stuff is in one place. If it's scattered all over the hard drive, you have to find all your individual songs. And take it from me, that is a really annoying task. So, import folder, and I'm gonna search for the import folder that I want to use. Then I'm gonna search for my music. DJ music. And I have all my stuff that I want to import in the 2010 folder. Let's open it. And Rekordbox starts to import all the songs. Rekordbox 5 and 4 have some screen real estate problems. You can see over here, if you have a bigger screen than me, bigger than 13-inch, you can see it says analyzing 1000 and something songs. You can also see what he's doing because here, over here it says 0%, and somewhere over here you will find what he is doing. 99%. If it's done, you'll see, if you have album art, you see the album art here and you'll see the waveform over here. Let's first wait for that import process to complete. Now that the import is done, I'm going to show you another way how to import songs in Rekordbox. I'm going to Finder and I'm going to select a couple of songs. And now I'm gonna drag them over to Rekordbox. And you'll see that Rekordbox starts to import those songs. Okay, now let's make some playlists. A playlist is basically a logical grouping of songs. That means that you can group songs in a playlist so you can easily find them. For example, you can make a playlist for a certain event, or you can make a playlist per genre, for example. You can do that over here on the left side of the screen. Over here you see playlists. To add a new playlist, just press the plus button and you are prompted to make a new playlist. My new playlist. Make it a name that you are finding useful. What I do a lot of playlists per genre. So let's make one, let's make an electro house. What we now can do is we can select different items. I'm just pressing the command button and I'm clicking on the songs. And now I can drag them over to my new playlist, or I can drag some other songs to Electro House. And when you look in the Electro House folder, you will see Electro House and you will see over here my new playlist. It's really easy to have some more structure. So what you can do is make a folder, and I right click on playlist and I say create new folder. And I say, for example, what I'll do is I will give it the name of the year. So the 2010 directory. And you can make, of course, another playlist in that, or you can drag your existing playlists over here. By the way, it's not a problem to have your songs in multiple playlists. For example, again, faster, I can drag that to another playlist, or I can drag that to my new playlist. No problem at all. If you want to find your songs, you can search them. You can search with the search box over here. You can search in a playlist, but you can also search through your whole collection. In my case, I want to search in my collection, so collection is selected. Now I search for Hello, and all the songs with Hello will show up. But when I select another playlist, there is only, again, faster in here. I will search for Hello, you will see nothing turns up. And if you want to delete your search, you can click the cross icon over here. When we go back to collection, it is possible that you don't see the exact columns that I have over here. What you can do is right click on one of the headers over here, right click, and then you will see that there pops up a screen, and in that screen you can select which columns you want to see. The columns with a V in front of it, those are checked, and that means that these are showing in your overview. Let's say that I want to have the album artist added also. I say album artist, and you will see album artist is added over here. You can drag those columns if you want to have that somewhere else. If you want to listen to the song, you can click on the waveform, and then it will jump to the part of the waveform that you are clicking. In my case, you won't hear anything, because if I let you hear what I have in my collection, I will get a copyright slap on the finger, so I won't do that. And you can stop the song by pressing the stop button in front of the track. You can load a song in the player by double clicking on the description, not on the preview, not on the waveform, because then it will jump into that part of the song. Double click it, and then you'll see that it is loaded in the player. By the way, if you see two players, there is an option over here that you can switch between, and it says now one player, so that is this view. But I can switch if I want to two players. Then I have two players, one over here and one over here, and I can drag some song in player 2 if I want to. Now you can see I have two songs underneath each other. I can also have a view of a simple player, that is this over here, or I can have the view of a full browser without any players. I will switch to the one player for now, because I want to show you something. I have Crazy for Love over here. On the top you'll see the album art, the title of the song, the artist of the song, the length of the song, the key of the song, and this is a Camelot key. Otherwise you will have A minor or B major or something over here. This is the BPM, the beats per minute. Again, you can click somewhere on that waveform and it jumps in the player over here to that waveform. When we look at the part below that upper waveform, we will see a large view of that wave. You can even make it larger if we click over here, and we can zoom out if we want, if we click over here. If this is annoying, then we can click it to the left, and if it's not displayed, we can click it over to the right here. If you took value from this video, you definitely gonna like what I have in store for you in my Rekordbox playlist. The playlist is filled to the brim with Rekordbox tutorials. The link is in the description below. You can order tracks by dragging them up or down. That's only possible in a playlist, so it's not possible in a collection. Just grab it and move it up or move it down, for example. So you can make a list in the order that you want. The next thing that I want to show you is hot cues and cue points. The difference between a hot cue and a cue point is a hot cue is directly, immediately accessible, and a cue point is not. A cue point you can use to mark certain differences in a song between, for example the break or a drop or the intro or the outro, and a hot cue you can immediately access, so it immediately jumps to that point in the song. That way you can skip parts of a song, for example, but you can also use it to recall a fraction of a song and jump immediately back to the point that you were playing before. You can have 10 cue points in a song and 3 hot cues. I say 3 because on the older CDJs, the CDJ 2000 Nexus and the models before, have only 3 hot cues. The newer models, the Nexus 2 and other DJ controllers, for example, have 8 hot cues. But if you want to stay compatible with the older players, then you have only 3 hot cues at your disposal. When we want to set hot cues or cue points, we first have to load in a song in the player. In the one player mode, and that's over here, in the one player mode, and we double click on the description, then it will load in the song. And I want to start with the cue points. Now we are over here. This is the grid of the song, but I want to go to cue and loop. Now I can say I want to set cue points, for example, to mark the difference between the break and the drop. So I will play this song and I want to set the cue. Now I click on memory and then the first memory point is set. How can we see if it's set? Well, you see on the right side, you see memory is lit up here. If you want to go to hot cues, what the hot cues are in a song, we can click this item, but we are now in the memory tab. That is for the cue points. We can set a name for a cue point. The first cue point is on the beginning of the song. Rekordbox sets that automatically. That's the first one. Let's give it a name. Names are, by the way, totally optional. And this is the break, for example. And we can set another cue point over here. Then we have to drag again to the right. Then say play and now set cue, so it jumps to the first beat. Now drag it, if we want, to the left, then set again memory and you'll see it will show up here. Now we have set a cue point for the drop, but if it is not the correct point, we made a mistake, for example, when we drag the screen again to the left, then we see that the right of those names is a X icon. You can press the X icon. For example, if I want to delete this point, I will say X and this is gone. I will say X again and now this cue point is also gone. But I want to set it again, so I say memory and I will set it again for the break. Now I can switch between those cue points by saying this left arrow and right arrow. Now I jump back a cue point, and when I say left again, it will jump back again a cue point. There's also a X button over here, and that of course removes the current cue point. Now let's head over to the hot cues. How to set the hot cues. I will select the hot cue tab over here so I can see what hot cues I already set. You see that over here are the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G and H. What I can do, if I set a hot cue over here, when I say that is my hot cue A, then I click this button and you'll see hot cue A is over here. I want to set hot cue B, for example, over here. Let's cue it. No, that's not right. I want to have it here. And I set hot cue B over here. And when I, for example, want hot cue C over here, cue it C. But, oh, I made a mistake. How do I remove them again? Again, you can press the X button over here, Or there is an X button with the hotkey over here. I'll press this X. You can export songs, playlists, album art, beat grids, cue points and hotkeys to USB drives. The speed of your USB performance can be influenced by the type of USB drive. Those Gorilla high sustainable USB drives may look pretty appealing for heavy use, but in fact they are quite slow. But also make sure that you have formatted the drive in the right way and you have a drive that is no larger than 32 GB. This is because of Pioneer design limitations. How to format the USB drive in the right way. Make sure that you have closed Rekordbox first. Go to the Disk Utility app on your Mac via the launcher, Other and Disk Utility. Choose your USB drive. Make sure that you select the first option, not the option underneath that with the name of your USB drive, because you will miss out options to speed up the exporting process of Rekordbox. Format the drive as FAT, File Allocation Table. First, choose a proper name for your USB drive. Next, choose MS-DOS FAT, not exFAT. And make sure to set the indexing mode to MBR, Master Boot Record setting. You'll miss that option if you choose the name of your drive instead of the option above. By formatting this way, exporting from Rekordbox can be reduced from 16 hours to roughly 4. Now your drive is ready for Rekordbox. Your instinct will tell you that dragging and dropping your files to your USB drive would suffice. In theory, the CDJs can read the files, but they're not analyzed, so you will miss vital information as BPM, beatgrid and cue points. In practice, not every file format you would expect is supported. So you have to export via Rekordbox. Start Rekordbox and go to the export mode in Rekordbox. When the files are in Rekordbox, you can export them to your USB drive. There are two ways to get your files to your USB drive in Rekordbox: by synchronization and exporting. The idea behind synchronization is that it looks what files are already on your drive, skips the file if it exists, and delete files that are deleted in Rekordbox. This will increase the speed of exporting your files to USB. But in practice, the synchronization is faulty and not all the files are synchronized correctly with your flash drive. So on your gig you will be missing songs. To use synchronization, click the Sync Manager and the window will pop up. Don't forget to check the checkbox above your USB drive contents. And hit the big arrow in the middle. A progress indicator on the bottom of your screen indicates the progress. I recommend choosing the export function instead, because exporting will also skip songs that are present on your USB drive to increase speed. Once in a while, reformat the USB drive and do a fresh export to get rid of the deleted files in Rekordbox on your flash drive. To export the entire collection, right-click on the playlists, choose Export Folder and choose your USB drive. In my case, it's called Music. It will show more devices if more USB devices are connected to your computer. I will show you what happens if I click it with the Export Playlist. To export a playlist, right-click on the playlist, choose Export Folder and again select your USB drive. It will display a message what functions there are available on different hardware. Hit OK and start exporting. And again, a progress indicator shows what happens. In the meantime, don't disconnect your drive, it will corrupt your library. When the process is finished, the indicator disappears and you're ready to go. To export a song, same procedure, right-click on the song, export and click your USB drive. What I can do is remove the thumb drive, but don't pull it out of your computer immediately. When you try to eject your USB thumb drive the regular way via Windows or via the Mac, that won't work. Your USB thumb drive is taken hostage by Rekordbox. You need to eject it from Rekordbox. There is no other way around. Eject it from Rekordbox by using this button, remove USB thumb drive. I'll click it And now I can safely remove my USB thumb drive. And now we can put the USB thumb drive in the CDJ. It will do nothing now, but if you select USB on the CDJ, then you'll see that it displays a message. My settings data was found. Push the menu button to load those settings. Those settings you can set in Rekordbox. Later in the video I will go into more detail on settings and how you can exchange settings between Rekordbox and the CDJ. Now you can see that we have over here all the stuff that we set in Rekordbox, and in this case I set a playlist. So we'll go with the scroll wheel to playlist, press that, and you'll see that is my new playlist that I just created in Rekordbox. Now I can open a song and play it. Rekordbox tries to do an educated guess of what is the counting of the song, what is the BPM of a song, what is the first count of a bar, the first beat of a bar. But that is in 80% of the times correct, but in 20% not. So we need to adjust that. We can do that in the beatgrid. Over here in Rekordbox you have the cue and the loop function. We already discussed that, but there is a grid also. And in that grid, that grid means beatgrid. And in that function we can see how Rekordbox analyzed the file. In this case I adjusted the file, but it's not correct. Let's try a analyze of the track. Over here we can see there is a menu button, and when you press that it will show a menu and it says analyze track normal and analyze track dynamic. There are two ways of analyzing, as you probably might have guessed. The normal way, and the normal way means a constant BPM of a song, and that is for electronic music probably not a problem because the BPM stays constant the entire song. Not always, but if that is not the case you can use analyze track dynamic. And for a lot of analog songs, for example the songs that are played by an orchestra or a band for example, you need to use the function analyze track dynamic. The standard way is analyze normal, and I'll show you that for now because I know that the beat grid of the beat, the BPM of this track is constant. Normal, and what do I want to analyze? BPM grid in a certain BPM range, so it isn't entirely off. Key, that is the key of a song, but I've done that with mixed in key and I don't want to override that, so I'll don't check this one or the phrase detection. Both I'll leave off. I'll say okay. And now it will analyze the track indeed. And you will see that the track is analyzed, but it's way off. And the first hint when you see a song and Rekordbox says on the beginning of the song, it says the first count of a bar, the first beat of a bar is over here, and that is with electronic music mostly not the case. I think it's over here, but we'll see that later. Easier to see that is over here because it is really obvious. This is, by looking at the waveform, you can see it's blue. So that means not a lot of bass, but the bass starts here, and that bass is, you see, red, red, red. That is the kick. So what I'll do is I will set it over here. Let's first explain the cue function. When I'm over here, I want to jump to the first beat of the first near beat, and I can do that with the cue function. With this cue, that is the quantize function. When I have this off, then it won't jump to the next beat, it will mark this point, and that is in this case this yellow mark over here. When I say Q now, it will jump with this on, it will jump to that beat, and if the next beat is nearer to this one, it will jump to that beat. But when I do it with the Q, when I cue it with that cue, so the quantize function off, you will see that it will make a mark and that yellow triangle will jump on that first beat, because I think it's the first beat of a bar. Let's check it, to be sure, let's check it. I'll rewind the song a bit. Okay, that's totally the first beat of the bar, indeed. You can hear by hearing the beeping sound was the metronome. I can switch this on and off. And when I press it on and it says blue, then you will hear that metronome. That is the beeping of those detected bars, the detected beats of a bar. You can set the volume if you think it's too loud, and I want it louder. Okay, that was metronome. But now I'll jump to the first beat of a bar. And I'll say Q. And now I want to point to that as the first beat of a bar. I can go to the first beat of a bar button over here, and I'll press it, and you'll see that all the beats will jump to another place. Again, the red thing is the first beat of a bar. Now let's check it with the metronome on. I think it's pretty close, but we'll... It's pretty close. It is not close enough for me. Even it was just for sake of the video. Let's zoom in. Now we can make it a more precise cut. I think it's probably here because the top kick is here, but okay. But that is not the way I want to do it this time. I want to shift the whole beat grid to the left, and that means when I zoom out that all these thingies that are over here that are marking a beat will jump to the left. I can show you that, and I have to press it a lot of times because it is a really small shift, but if I press it a lot of times you will see that all that that marks will jump to the left. But of course I can make it more to the right. Now let's hear if that is the correct counting. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Want no ads? My Rekordbox course has 0 ads and you can download it to your computer. The link is in the description. But sometimes when a track is dynamic in tempo, for example, and you can't solve that correctly by using the analyze function, you have to adjust that manually. But sometimes you don't want to apply those changes for the whole track. You want only the last part of your song be influenced by your changes. You can do that with this function over here. Apply the changes to the current position and everything that comes after that position. I'll press this button, and then you'll see that the markings will disappear over here, and that if I change anything, that it will only apply to what comes after this. You'll think, well, I can set if the tempo changes throughout the song, then the first beat of a bar changes sometimes too, or it is a really badly produced track, and then I have sometimes a count short or a beat short or a beat over. If you want to adjust that for the first count of a beat, set that correctly further in the song, that doesn't work. Rekordbox doesn't work that way. So really annoying, but regretfully it is that way. So when I say, if I make a change now and I say make adjustment to current position and after, then I say first beat of a bar, it will change for the whole song. But when I do changes, for example, shift the whole beat grid to the right, then it will work. And just pay attention, this option is selected now, and I'll want to shift the whole beat grid after that position to the right, and you'll see that only the right side will be influenced, and I can do it back. Okay, and if I now want to apply those whole changes to the whole track, then you'll see that now my changes are applied to the whole track. Sometimes you need to expand the grid and the beat intervals, and you have to compress it. Therefore, you can use this button. Expand the beat intervals and shrink the beat intervals. Expand it. And you will see that the BPM over here will change also. And now let's shrink it. Sometimes a song is 80 BPM and Rekordbox recognizes it as a song of 160 beats per minute. That is wrong, but yeah, wrong, but it is easier to have the correct beats, the correct BPM. What we can do now is I'll press the ×2 button, and then if you look over here, then you'll see that this will double. So I'll say double, and you'll see it will double. And when I say half, it will half the BPM. When I made the changes in a track, and I have spent a lot of time to make the beat grid the correct way, you don't want to lose that change by, for example, by accident pressing the analyze function. What we can do is lock the beat grid. And I have to press on the lock over here, and you will see that the lock will close. Then the changes you do, you can't change it now anymore, you can't click here. And if you analyze the song, you'll see it is grayed out. But if I do an analyze of different tracks, more than one track, then this track isn't analyzed. So that safeguards that the things you've done are not lost. Now let's talk tags. And tags are the my tag function in Rekordbox. When we have the tracks over here, then you'll see on the right side there are a couple of buttons, and when we press the upper button, that is the my tag button. Then there will be a panel over here, and in that panel you can see that there are a couple of different items you can check. There is a genre, there is a component, and there is a situation. But you can define your own tags. Me personal, when I look at myself, the genre tag I don't find very useful. I use playlists per genre. There are components in here, synth, vocal, beat. You can define your own components if you want. Let's say, for example, I want to have a new component, female vocal. Then I can add my own. I have a situation over here, low energy tracks, high energy tracks, you can define that, or in the middle. And what I did is I defined my own tags, and that's where it gets interesting. I made tags that I called dances. You can Again, make your own tags. I can define my own tags. In my case, I've set tags for samba and cha-cha, kizomba and salsa, and I checked samba and cha-cha. When I go to another song, you will see that those check marks are gone. When I select the song that I had selected before, you'll see that those tags are checked. I can check others if I want to. Smart playlists or intelligent playlists. You can group automatically tracks in a playlist by applying certain filters on those tracks. For example, I want to have only the tracks that are of a lower BPM, so the slow songs. You don't have to manage that. Rekordbox will take care of that for you automatically. Let's do that. Playlist is selected. Now I right click on playlist and I'll say create new intelligent playlist. I can give it a name. I say slow tracks. Now you can supply a field, a database field, which I am selecting now BPM. I say the BPM has to be equal to, in this case, 0, but I say I want to have the condition not equal, greater than, less than, and is in range of. I say, in this case, my BPM has to be lower than 120, and I'll press OK. Now you see that Rekordbox has created a list of slow tracks that are all the tracks, I'll scroll to the right, that have a BPM that is lower than 120. But you can use smart lists also for tags, and then it is interesting. I want to make a smart playlist that is automatically filled with my sambas. And again, I defined my own tags, and I can define my own Roomba. And I'll say playlist, create new intelligent playlist, and I'll say I want to have all the sambas, so I make a playlist with the name samba. I'll select over here my tag, and my tag contains, and when I click over here, you will see that there is a list. And you'll see that are the items I just created and all the items that are over here, and indeed also the newly created. I'll say samba. Now I say OK. And you will see that I have now a playlist full of sambas. The advantage of smart playlist is that you don't have to maintain those playlists. Rekordbox does that for you. So if you add songs and you check when you analyze the song, when you import them, and you check directly, I want to have it as a samba, then those playlists are automatically updated in Rekordbox. And if you export it to your USB and go over to your CDJs, your CDJs will automatically read those lists for you. Related tracks in Rekordbox. Related tracks in Rekordbox can help you with suggestions for playing your next song. You're still the DJ, so you have to do the mixing in your head and know which songs are compatible with each other. But it can help you. Rekordbox can give you a suggestion based on, for example, BPM or key if the song is compatible. When we have our screen over here, you'll see that on the right side that there is a button that says display related tracks. When I press that button, you will see the related tracks over here. But what is a related track? That is for everybody something else. So we can define that by pressing this gear icon over here. Let's press it. Then there is a screen in which you can set those filters. For example, I have now set the BPM filter on the current track that is a deviation of plus or minus 5. And the key has to be based on the current key, or the same key, a related key, or related key 2. The same key is exactly the same key, so A major with A major or 8A with 8A. Related key 1 is 8A with 7A, for example, and related key 2 is broader than that. But you can set some other things over here, some other filters over here. Year, date, edit, matching, history, matching I will go into detail later, same artist, tracks, genre, ratings, comments and tags, and even the file format. I'll leave it at that with this. You will see that list is selected and that is the list over here. Then we have the collection and you can set that collection, where does it have to search? I'll click over here. I'll click over here and you'll see search in the playlist you selected. So only the playlist that you have selected. And then you can define which playlist you want. In this case, I want to search in the whole library. So I'll uncheck this and I'll say, okay. Matching songs and related songs are two different things in Rekordbox. Matching songs are the songs that you match manually, and related songs is something that Rekordbox does based on key or BPM, for example. When I go to the 2-player mode, not the 1-player mode, the 2-player mode, then I load in 2 tracks, 1 track in player A and 1 track in player B. Then over here you will see an icon, and that is the link icon. When it's blue, a song is matched, and when it's white, a song is not matched. When you drag in 2 songs and those are not matched together, you can match them by pressing this icon. So I can now record a match between Party and Friends. Let's take 2 other songs. So I will drag another song in player B. Then Squeezy Beat will be matched with like this when I press this button. When it comes to Rekordbox, you're done now. You can't see a list of your matched songs, for example. There is something there in related songs, but I go not into detail in this video. But you can't see on your CDJ which songs that you have matched in Rekordbox. When you're playing one song, you can select on the other player matching songs. And that is really helpful. Want no ads? My Rekordbox course has 0 ads and you can download it to your computer. The link is in the description. You can set certain settings from Rekordbox on your CDJs. When you put in your USB drive in your Rekordbox, then export your stuff to that USB drive and then put your USB drive in your CDJs. Your CDJs can't read those settings. Regretfully, those settings are a little bit confusing because they are highly inconsistent, definitely not Pioneer finest, but I have broken them down into 3 kinds of settings in the hope that I can more easily explain them to you. The first settings are the My Settings settings. Those settings you have to explicitly save to USB back in order to save them. Then second of all, you can change them on the CDJ settings, and third of all, the automatically save to USB settings on your CDJs. I'll start with the My Settings settings. You can change them in Rekordbox by clicking on Rekordbox Preferences. Then go to the tab sheet CDJs and Device. Then over there you will see a tab sheet that says My Settings. When we go over there, then you'll see that there is a list of settings you can set for the CDJs. I will pick out the ones that I think that are particularly important. For example, the play mode, I'd like to have that on single. Then a track stops after one track is played. The eject, load, unlock, you can eject every time if you want to. You can lock that, your eject, to prevent if a song is playing that you can't eject. Need a look. Auto cue, hot load, hot cue, auto load, that's over here. I'd like to have that on, otherwise I forget to load them and then you are jumping to the previous loaded hot cue and that can't be in the previous song, and that is really annoying. The loading time is somewhat longer, but that's a trade-off I happily want to do. Hot cue color, yes, you can change the colors of the hot cues on the CDJ 2000 Nexus 2, not below. Slip flashing is something that I'd like to have on, because if I press the slip button then stuff starts flashing, so that reminds me that the slip is on. On-air display, that if a jog wheel is on air, that means that it's playing and that the fader of the mixer is open. Then that one will turn red. I find that really useful. Jog brightness, jog indicator, disclose illumination language, SD brightness. Then there are a bunch of settings that you can't find directly in the settings screen of the CDJ, but they are settings you can set in other ways. Auto cue, yes, I'd like to auto cue for a track, so I leave that on. Jog mode CDJs or the vinyl mode, I'd like to have that on vinyl. The tempo range plus minus 10, what is the default? Of course, you can change that in the player itself when you're playing. Master tempo, is it on or off? By the way, I'd like to have that on plus minus 6. Master tempo on or off. The quantize function on or off, I'd like to have that on. The sync standard on or off, I'd like to have that off. Phase meter type 1 or 2. Type 1, there is a type that have blocks that are jumping, and the other one is with lines, and I find that lines variant somewhat more easier. Of course, you can change that on the CDJ. Then you can set those settings directly if you're using the Pro DJ Link connection. Now let's close the window. And over here on the left we have the devices, and that is my USB drive. When we go over there, you see that the last top sheet you have category, sort, column, color, and my settings. When we go over there, you see that these are the settings we just set, and those are the settings that are saved to your USB drive. Now we can eject the USB drive and put it in my CDJ. When we have changed my settings on your CDJs and explicitly save them to your USB drive, I can put them again in Rekordbox and a message will display. And that message says, do you want to update my settings on the device? And if I want to copy those settings that I just made in or on my CDJs, then I'll say yes. If I don't want to, I say no. In my case, I say yes. So now all the settings that I've done in the CDJs that are now in Rekordbox, and I can find them again in preferences, CDJs, and under my settings. My second type of settings that I want to discuss is you can't change on your CDJ settings. There are a couple of things that you can't change on the CDJs, but it's really useful to set them in Rekordbox. You would think that you can change those settings in the Rekordbox options. Yes, you can't do that. I say Rekordbox, preferences, and on the CDJs. There are a couple of settings you can set. The problem is if you have a USB drive with already settings on them and you change them in the options screen, then they won't be saved to your USB drive. If you want to change your settings to your USB drive, then you have to go to your USB drive and you find those settings also over here. The difference being that the My settings you can't change, but the things like the categories, for example, you can change, and those settings are saved to your USB drive. When I look at category, you will see that category is also over here. That's a little bit confusing. In other words, if you want to change settings on a new USB drive, change them here. So every setting that you do here will be copied onto a newly inserted USB drive. But if you have an existing drive, go over here and change the settings over here. I will go over a couple of settings in this video, the things that I find particularly interesting. I'll switch to the tab sheet category. And I can select here which categories that I want to see on my CDJs. On the right side there are the active categories, the categories that are actually on the CDJs, and on the left side are the categories that are available. I have album, artist, bitrate, color, file name, hotkey bank, label, original artist, remixer, time and year. And here are my active categories: track, key, that's the key of a song, playlist, history, search, matching, folder, rating, BPM and genre. If I want to move those categories, remove those categories, for example genre, then I can press left and then it will be somewhere over here, genre, but I don't want to. I want to add this one to my available categories in the CDJs. So it's a genre. If I want to have year, then I can select year. If I want to have time, I can select time, but I don't want that. You can also change the order if you want. If genre is more important to you than the track itself, you can place it on the first place. But in this case, genre I don't use very often. BPM I use some more. Rating, no, rating is more important. I use the rating not for the rating of a song, but for the energy level. The next tab sheet is sort. You have categories, those are the menu items you see on your CDJs, but you can also sort on certain items on your CDJs. You can sort on album, artist, bitrate, color, comments, date added, DJ play count, genre, label, original artist, remix and time. And again on the right, the active options, that are the options that are actually on your CDJs, and these are the all available options. I've selected the active sort options. Default, you can't change that, that's why it's gray. The alphabet, of course, logic, and the BPM, the rating and the key, that I find again the most useful sort options. Again, you can move them up or down if you want to. Then there is a column option, and that column option is just one thing you can set. Next to your track there can be a second column, and which information do you want to display in that column? Is that DJ count? Well, not very useful. I say or key, and I'd like to have, if Pioneer is watching this video, I'd like to have two columns, one with the key and one with the BPM. So that is up to you. You can also select BPM. That's it for the you can't change them items on your CDJs. Next up, the auto-saved items on your CDJs. That are items, those are only 2 items that are automatically saved without doing an explicit save to your USB drive. There are 2 options, and one you can find over here. That is the waveform display. Which color do you want to have? Do you want to have that in blue or in RGB? RGB, red, green, blue, and blue for the higher notes and red for the bass notes, bass frequencies. And again, for those auto-saved items, when you put in a new USB stick, then the options of the option screen will be saved to your USB drive. If you have an existing USB drive, those options will not be saved. For example, when I look over here, I just, if I make a change to RGB in this case, then I'll close this screen and you will see that the settings on my USB drive are set to blue instead of RGB. So blue is the setting that is saved on my USB stick. I said earlier there is missing an option in the options screen. Well, but that is present over here. I can set it to pink, that is the background color, or red if I want to, and then it is saved to my USB drive. If you like this tutorial, you should definitely check out my tutorial on the performance mode of Rekordbox. You can find it right here. Individual Rekordbox tutorials you can find in the playlist here. My complete Rekordbox course can you find here and in the description below.